What's up, wrestling fans? Welcome to Ultimate Wrestling Trivia, The Show. My name is Dashing Derek alongside Devon and Mike Merc. Would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the show with your friends? You can also find this on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. You know, the internet. All right, today's topics, we got forgotten WrestleMania matches. We have our favorite WrestleMania matches. We have a special segment with Angelo Stefano, What Could Have Been. And then we got forgotten gimmicks. Let's start it off. Favorite WrestleMania matches. Mike Merc, let's go.
So a personal favorite of mine would be none other than the WrestleMania 23 Ford Field Money in the Bank ladder match. My friend, former wrestling student of mine, former tag team partner, Mr. Kennedy.
Wait for it.
He was in that match. Struggle, CM Punk, guys that we knew before they made it big. Hosted a watch party with a bunch of independent wrestlers from the area here in Green Bay. And when Ken pulled down the briefcase, it was like our favorite team won the Super Bowl. The whole room erupted. We were hugging, high-fiving, doing celebratory shots. It was a good time. And for that, moment in time was definitely probably the coolest WrestleMania match for me personally.
So not to cut you off at all. So did you get a chance to talk or text Ken the night of or the next day after? What was he feeling during that moment? I can't even imagine.
1,000%.
Yeah.
So I do remember, he knew ahead of time that was a good possibility, but a lot of things can change, and but he did not smarten us up at all. We found out live, and he got flooded. He said, like his phone was a zillion text messages.
That's awesome.
And we got a chance to connect a couple days later, and it was good stuff.
And where was that WrestleMania at?
Detroit, Ford Field?
Detroit?
The 20th anniversary of WrestleMania 3.
Yeah,
That's
correct. Devon forgot her favorite Mania match.
My favorite, so I love and hate these questions. It's almost like the Mount Rushmore of who's your favorite. So you like go through the process of like bam, 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 and then you're like, well, I can't leave this person out. I can't do this. So I made a top 10 list, and then I had an honorable mention, but I won't bore you with the whole top 10. Drum roll, please. So I'll give you the top 5. Number 5 was Lesnar and Angle at WrestleMania 19. Obviously, two collegiate freaks of natures, just putting on a great show at the Show of Shows. And I know everybody's going to remember it for the Shooting Star Press. Brock Lesnar, unfortunately, he didn't hit it. I mean, if he would have hit that, it probably would have been Uncle Dave would have gave it a 5-star. I'm sure he might have gave it a 5-star already. Number 4, Y2J and HBK, WrestleMania 19. Also, just another classic from two guys that know how to tell a story leading up to it. Just a great all the way from start to finish. Number 3, probably one of your favorites too, Savage and Steamboat, WrestleMania 3. Classic, absolutely way ahead of its time. I believe they said at the time there was 22 to 25 false finishes that they had in that match. And during this time, you got to remember, 1987, that was unheard of. They didn't have that. Like you didn't kick out of finishers or anything like that. So to see that quick pace, was just unheard of. Now you see it every day, the Young Bucks, and not that I want to pick on AEW or anything like that, but you see that almost every Wednesday. Number 2 was Bret Hart versus HBK at WrestleMania 12. So that is the one where Shawn Michaels came down the zip line. I believe it was in Anaheim at the Pond. That was your Iron Man match, the 60-minute match, which went into sudden death overtime. It was 1-0. Being a Bret Hart guy, Shawn Michaels over here, I was definitely like, I just automatically thought Bret Hart would win. I was like, there's no question. And then as it went on, I got invested. I was like, well, he didn't get a pinfall yet. What's going on? And as I got older, I did respect Shawn Michaels, especially when it came to Mania. I mean, the guy,
Mr. WrestleMania.
that's where he shines the best. So I found myself invested in that 60 minutes. If you ever go back and watch it, it just flies by like nothing. And you're like, wow, there's only been one pinfall. So that comes in at number 2. And the number 1 WrestleMania match for me, brother versus brother, always took it to heart. WrestleMania 10, being a Brett guy again, Brett and Owen. Can't say enough about it. Probably one of my favorite matches of all time is 92, I think it was, at SummerSlam in the cage match. Probably my all-time favorite WWE, WWF match. But what they did at WrestleMania 10 is just like, it's a tearjerker. It's a classic, one for the ages that's going to stand the test of time. Like 300 years from now, you can go back and watch it. But Owen and Brett, I put that as the number 1 WrestleMania moment. Like, I don't think anybody's going to top that at all.
Very good. And my favorite WrestleMania match is actually on your list, and that is Chris Jericho versus HBK at WrestleMania 19. And I just love this feud from start to finish, and this is where it started. It actually started in December of 2002 when Shawn Michaels was a guest on the highlight reel. And what had happened was Chris Jericho, he was coming off his WrestleMania loss the year prior against Triple H.
Triple H. I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
Triple H. Somebody out there was like, it's Triple H.
Yeah, and Shawn Michaels, he was coming off a feud with Triple H. It's when he had come back recently from his injury. And a lot of people thought maybe that was it for Shawn Michaels, so there wasn't really a direction for him at the time. So it was just supposed to be a one-off with him on the highlight reel. And legend has it that they had their little spiel on the highlight reel. Shawn super kicked Chris Jericho. They came through the curtain, and Vince McMahon, he said, "You smell that? That smells like money." And then, hey, history was made. Both had very good chemistry, like you said. The match was like a student-teacher match where Chris Jericho, you could tell like he was emulating Shawn Michaels' moves, and it was just start to finish, like you said.
That's right. If you ever listen to Chris Jericho on Talk is Jericho on the podcast, he really goes in detail and stuff about how he wanted. He's a Shawn Michaels guy. Yeah. Being from Canada, you wouldn't think so, but yeah, that was a guy he looked up to and wanted to work with forever. So yeah, he brought his A++ game for that.
That's right, and it was a very cool aesthetic too. It was at Safeco Field in the stadium as the sun was setting.
Yep.
So it was very cool, like when you see those stadium shows when, you know, the beginning of WrestleMania, you know, it's bright out and everything, and then for the later matches and the main events, it's, you know, dark and it's got that cool aesthetic. But to
a smaller degree, maybe like Daly's Place at AEW where it's light out, and then because it's got that little open in the background where you can see some palm trees and stuff, and then it gets darker as the show goes on.
But of course, like I said, that was the start of their feud. They would continue their feud back up in 2008, and that is when Chris Jericho injured Shawn Michaels' eye. He threw him through the Jerotron, and then he infamously punched Shawn Michaels' wife legit in the face.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
I just love that feud from start to finish, and this is where it started at WrestleMania 19. Chris Jericho, HBK, my favorite WrestleMania match.
Well, good little forgotten Mania match that you know we've discussed on our show. So depending on what order you've watched this in, for me it's the Gimmick Battle Royal. As an old school growing up WWF fan, you got a chance to see the legends that you fell in love with in the business. Yep. You know, obviously they're older, they're slower, a little bigger maybe, and
cheeky baby.
It's not the quality of that match that makes it stand out. It's much like when you watch a Royal Rumble and there's that aha surprise moment of Booker T coming out of nowhere, JBL, you know, making his way, or the Boogeyman having an entrance. Hurricane Helms in recent memory. This was much like that, where, you know, these wrestlers came out, these gimmicks of yesteryear. You know, Repo Man, great guy. He came out, but the commentary between Bobby the Brain Heenan, it was just phenomenal. And you know, you had the Fink involved, Howard Finkel. It was good stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would take you back to probably 1993, WrestleMania 9. You'll never hear me say anything bad about WrestleMania 9, even though I know a lot of people are not a fan of the Las Vegas, the world's largest toga party that was there. One of the most accomplished tag teams of the 90s, the Steiner brothers. Now, we're not talking about Big Papa Pump with the, is all, big bad booty daddy type stuff, but this is the Scott Steiner beforehand, where he had
and the Michigan jacket, right?
Michigan jacket, the long black hair with Rick Steiner. These guys had the WCW and WWF tag team titles at one point, facing wrestling royalty in the Head Shrinkers, a part of the Annoying family. So yeah, I'd go back to the Head Shrinkers versus the Steiner brothers, WrestleMania 9. Great tag team match, and again, it goes back to the surroundings. It's still light out in the back. The crowd seems really into it. Just they worked, they gelled really good together. That was wrestling in the 80s and 90s. Is just completely different how it was in like the early 2000s, or maybe even today to some aspects. You just always had essentially a star in the tag team, right? So like if you wanted to say the Rockers, you had your Shawn Michaels, which was amazing. The Steiners, you had Scott Steiner, who went on to have a big championship gold, but definitely one to go search out if you got some downtime. I would look that one up.
Yeah, my Forgotten Mania match, we're going to bring it to 1991, and it involves one of the Von Erichs, Kerry Von Erich. If you haven't seen the Iron Claw movie, definitely check it out. Definitely recommend that. But the one and only appearance by Kerry Von Erich at WrestleMania was at WrestleMania 7 against Dino Bravo, which was headlined by WrestleMania 7.
7 was Macho Man Ric Flair?
No.
Oh. WrestleMania
Hogan Slaughter, right?
Los Angeles Sports Arena. It was Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter.
The anti-American Sergeant Slaughter.
Yes. So wasn't that Mania was originally supposed to be in the Coliseum, right?
It was.
And then there was the whole
supposedly threats,
and then they had to move it. Yeah, that's a nice little nugget. I didn't know that was the Texas Tornado's only WrestleMania.
Yes, his one and only, and he took on Dino Bravo, and that was actually his last WrestleMania match.
Okay.
But a very quick, inoffensive match. You can definitely tell that Kerry wasn't moving the best. Just knowing what we know now with his foot and what he was dealing with, you could tell he was kind of moving a little bit slow, but Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan were on the call, so that definitely brought back a lot of nostalgia. And you had the Fink doing the announcing beforehand, and then you had Jimmy Hart ringside on the microphone, or the megaphone. So very quick. It was 3 minutes and 11-second match. But
isn't that amazing how when you go back and you look at a lot of the Mania matches, how they're only like 3 to 5 minutes, but like during that time, they packed like a half hour's worth of stuff like right in there. It just felt amazing. But you go back and you're like, that match was only 4 minutes long. Like, wow, like that's crazy.
And there wasn't much of a build for the match either. I think Kerry was coming off winning and losing the Intercontinental title against Mr. Perfect. So, I mean, there wasn't a lot of build for that match, but definitely a lot of nostalgia. But to wrap up that Forgotten Mania match, Kerry Von Erich, he won the match. He applied the Iron Claw. He hit the Tornado Punch, and he pinned Dino Bravo. And it was kind of eerie at the end of that match. He kind of gave the gun salute, just knowing what would happen to both of those guys.
Wow. Yeah.
Just 2 years later, within a couple months of each other, I believe, too. So, kind of an eerie ending to that match, but a very cool match to look back on, I think.
I want to throw it out there just as a curveball. Greatest announced team. You said you had Gorilla and Bobby on there. Who do you guys think is the greatest announced team? Because I would take a combination of people. I'm going anywhere from Gorilla's got to be the main one, but then you can throw in Bobby Heenan, Jesse Ventura's, the Lord Alfred Hayes of the world. Like, I'm taking that combo right there.
I'm gonna go a little more recent than that. I'm a fan. Attitude Era, Jerry the King Lawler, Jim Ross, good old JR. I thought that duo was magic. I think that some of that commentary doesn't hold up as well as far as like in the PC world, the more PC world that we live in today. But in a vacuum, in that time frame, it it drew those big numbers, and there was a reason for it. Like, it was entertaining. The puppies, we were all thinking it. Lawler was saying it.
I was waiting for you to say that. Puppies! So we all said it, yes.
Yep. And, and good old JR, too. The way that you see now on social media, you'll see the little memes of maybe football teams with their logo on two wrestlers' heads set to Jim Ross commentary. By God, he's killed him.
Yep.
Like, it's that iconic for a reason.
I gotta say, Vince McMahon, he's probably the most underrated
Very
announcer.
underrated.
I mean,
good call on
when
that
you're
one.
playing with your wrestling figures when you were a little kid, you knew you were doing the Vince McMahon
What a
voice.
maneuver.
What a maneuver.
He's coming off the top rope.
Yeah, Vince, like you said, he's slept on. He's a great commentary. I would definitely put him up there. And two, Michael Cole gets no love at all. I know it's like almost a cool thing, like if you're a football fan, to hate on Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, but that job is really hard to do, and he's been doing it for decades and decades. And I don't know, Cole he's very good.
And if you have any forgotten WrestleMania matches that you would like us to talk about, hey, let us know in the comments below. But right now, we're going to kick it to everybody's favorite heel, Angelo Stefano, with What Could Have Been.
And welcome back to Angelo Stefano's What Could Have Been segment. Apparently, I'm not cool enough right away to sit at the table with the other guys, so I have my own segment, and let's face it, I'm kind of a do-it-yourself kind of guy anyway. Today I'm going to be talking about 6'4", 350 pounds of a mean man called Black Bart. I was a Black Bart fan back in the day when I first saw him wrestle for World Class Championship Wrestling, and he actually won the World Class Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. That's how I remember him, and that, according to my knowledge, is the height of his career when it came to winning titles. I think he could have been a little bit better than that had he been given a push in a major promotion, be it WWF or NWA/WCW. I think he would have made a great television champion in the NWA/WCW. I even think he could have won the United States heavyweight title. I think he was that good. But for one reason or another, he never quite achieved those heights. Why do you think that is? Leave your ideas in the comments section, and thank you for watching my segment.
But right now, we're going to go to Forgotten Gimmicks. I know I gave you guys a picture earlier today. We're going to try to get that on the screen. Forgotten Gimmicks. Can you name this wrestler? He's a former WWF World Champion, a former WCW World Champion, and a former Intercontinental Champion. Who is it?
Oh, so on the count of three, should we take our guess and say it together?
Sure.
Okay,
Well,
ready?
mind meld here.
All right. Ding.
I'll give you a hint. His
Oh,
name,
no, we
his
got it.
name-
I'm saying, count to three for us, and we'll say
Okay.
ours together. All right, ready?
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Kevin
Macho
Nash.
Man.
Oh,
Randy Savage.
Savage Nash. Are one of us right?
Okay, his name was the Spider in this picture,
Oh,
and
no.
he was a minor league baseball player who's at the time,
Oh, okay.
his contract would not allow him to wrestle, so he wrestled under a mask as the Spider, and he was none other
I
than
thought you knew that one.
Randy Savage.
Yeah,
That is
I did not
correct,
know that.
Randy Savage.
Nice.
Randy Poffo.
Man, good job,
Good
Merc.
job, Merc.
Kevin Nash. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why.
No.
But Randy Poffo, he would make his professional wrestling debut in 1973. He was about 21 years of age in this photo right here. And ironically, Randy Savage, he would go on to be featured in the 2002 Spider-Man movie as Bonesaw McGraw,
Bonesaw McGraw.
based on the comics character Crusher Hogan. So very ironic there, right?
Very nice. Well, what team did
It all comes full circle.
Macho Man played for? What team?
The minor
Reds.
leagues for the Cincinnati Reds.
Cincinnati Reds. Okay.
Yeah.
I
That's
believe
what
White Sox as well.
Okay.
But
Very nice. I like it.
I think his professional wrestling career panned out for him.
He chose wisely. Yeah, he ended up in the right career path for sure.
the family business did him well.
Yes.
All right, Forgotten Gimmicks. What do we got next?
I went with something only Vince McMahon could come up with, and that's a name of Just Joe. Take it to 2001.
Oh,
Do you
Just
remember
Joe.
this?
I do.
This guy was like the locker room snitch, like
Yeah.
where he was like, His little catchphrase was "Don't shoot the messenger." You probably saw him a lot on like Velocity or like Sunday Night Heat or one of those things. Just Joe. And then he went on to independent wrestling and became Joe E. Legend. But Just Joe, terrible gimmick, terrible thing. But like, I guess everybody can kind of relate to that at a job. You know, somebody's got somebody where they're always kind of snitching or saying somebody like, "Oh, Stefano took an extra cookie," like, you know. So, Just Joe would be my forgotten gimmick. We could toss a picture of him. You remember him at all? 2001.
Merc, what do we got for
All right.
forgotten gimmicks?
So forgotten gimmicks, you know, since it was plural, I came up with the Main Street Posse. Basically, their backstory is probably cooler than the gimmick themselves. They're Shane McMahon's legit childhood friends, and they got to do a lot of cool stuff in the ring with a lot of the who's who of the wrestling
DX,
business
Rock.
for that era.
Yeah.
So, you know, they definitely got thrown around like rag dolls on a regular basis, but Rodney, Pete Gas, shout out to the Mean Street Posse.
Yes. Joey Abs.
So,
Yeah,
yes,
right.
so
Joey Abs. I mean,
and
that's a
he's
great
actually-
name too.
He's from our neck of the woods.
Oh, no kidding.
So yeah, he's
Yeah?
from
Okay,
the
very
the
nice.
lake shore of Wisconsin, Shoto, Manitowoc, Wisconsin.
So it pays to be friends with Shane O'Mac then, man.
But,
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's a great. It was a fun gimmick at the time.
Yep.
Nice. And I think that's all we got for today's show. In the comments below, if you want to let us know what your favorite Mania matches are, a forgotten gimmick, whatnot, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, share the show with your friends, and we will see you next time. See you.